Absolutely, the commercial office space market is going through a change that it won't have seen for many, many years, and this is off the back of COVID. It's bad for communities because people commuting in and around their communities as much, and COVID has expedited that position.
Yeah.
So less people are commuting. They're still commuting, but they might commute 2 days or 3 days instead of 5. So the market for flex space is really strong.
Yeah.
IncuHive are trying to disrupt that market by being as flexible as possible for the customer, the tenant, and we're using underperforming and redundant space to create those environments.
That's interesting. I mean, I think that there's obviously from my experience and from looking at commercial office space, I mean, it becomes very specific in a way when you're designing for an end user. So you might be designing for a lawyer, or you might be designing for a different kind of setup entirely. And as an architect, you kind of look at those spaces and you look at how they relate, and you make sure that they're functioning as best they can and to the best efficiency that they can for those spaces. And
the way I look at it is, over the last 30, 40, 50 years, office renters have signed into kind of 5-10 year full and repairing leases. One of my acquaintances, I'm sure you know, he was talking about cutting his teeth selling office space in London in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd sell a 100 square foot office like the one we're in now on a 25-year lease.
Wow.
Full and repairing lease, and that was the only option.
Yeah.
Fast forward 43 years, and we are in a market where the tenants are no longer accepting of long leases.
Yeah.
Because they don't need to, because the flex letting market has become more popular and stronger. And I think conventional landlords and office spaces will have to rely on good service.
Yeah.
Because with a 30-day license,
yeah,
if you don't react well to your tenants or perform or create environments that are more than just space, they'll leave.
They'll move to the next one, yeah.
Yeah, whereas 30, 40 years ago, they were locked in for 10 years, and so it didn't matter. If they didn't like it, tough. So 40 years ago, your business could have been the same. If you don't adapt, progress, innovate, you'll fall by the wayside. And so I think companies fluctuate a lot more in both their growth, or maybe their stagnation, or the numbers of people they need. They bring in automation, so they require less staff, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And so those fluctuations in requirement of space are much greater than 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. So the companies are less inclined to take a 5-year tenancy, because in 2 years they might be double the size or half the size, and so having 30-day licenses like we do creates so much flexibility. They can move up in space or move down. And we have massive chains around our sites, and we call it musical offices. And so someone might move from a hot desk to a dedicated desk. That person moves into a small office. The person in that small office doubles in size and goes into a bigger office, and they all know about it, and we move them around as best we can. And some of those companies downsize, because they were 20 people all working in an office, and now 10 are working from home. Yeah. On the first 2 days of the week, the other 10 are the second 2 days a week. So, and I feel that the space market needs to reflect their customer market. And most other industries, if you don't perform for your customers, then you've got a problem. Whereas in space, the customer has largely been irrelevant, because they sign a 10-year contract and they're forgotten about. But I think that's changing, and we're trying to aid that disruption.